Exclusive interviews, global voices, real stories. Welcome to Worldwide Entertainment TV, and I'm your New York and Atlanta host, Miss Goldi, and that's Miss Goldi to you. Family, today we're going to a place many people avoid, but everybody needs the truth about healing. I have the honor of sitting with a woman who survived childhood trauma, emotional abandonment, rejection, depression, and the shadows of mental illness in her home, yet still found a way to the light. She didn't just write a book, she wrote a testimony. Her story is proof that even in the darkest chapters, God never lets go. Please welcome the incredible author of He Never Let Go, Miss Pamela Waggoner Good. Thank you for joining us, Miss Pamela.
Thank you for having me on. I'm excited to join you.
Thank you so much. Last night I actually had an opportunity of going through your book and everything, and it resonated so much with me and things that I dealt with. But we're gonna get into that. I really was excited about this interview, and I can't wait to get into it with you. So, when you look back, let's start from the beginning. When you look back on your childhood, the chaos, the hunger, the loneliness, what memory stands out as the moment you realized something in your home wasn't like other homes?
Mostly when little children can come over to my house. Of course, when you're little, you don't quite grasp it all. And even my cousins weren't allowed to spend the night with us. But also, every once in a while, I was asked to go in the night with a girlfriend. And it's a bit different. Watching their family dinners and their that. So we all knew it was, but we also knew that was right. So we just kind of went with it, right?
Hmm.
Didn't really talk to other kids about it. I never other kids or anybody actually. You just
Right,
kind of that was my life. I go to school. I try to do me at school and then me at home.
right, right. In your book, you describe feeling unlovable even as a little girl, and that hit me because so many adults are still walking around with the same wound. Can you talk about where that feeling began for you and what it did to your identity as you grew up?
Well, my mom was loving when she was, when her mind was there. Like if she tucked me in at night and did a prayer or would sing. But the majority of the time, she, as I call it in my second chapter, in another room, her mind took her somewhere else. And my dad, he was always working. Very, we see him, we'd have to go over to my grandma. And I just felt I needed nurturing, and there was no nurturing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty much ever since I've been a child, even though we didn't Christmas, we didn't turn into hell. Actually, I don't know if I can say the word, but chaos.
Right.
And when we'd go to family gatherings and my cousins would, their families were just a little bit different. Just my dad was there. He would hug me when I'd see him, nurturing something every day, nurturing. And so if you had a bad day at school, if you didn't, you never talked to anybody. I had no one to go to, cry on their shoulder, or talk to me sad, or if my feelings were hurt from someone at school, or if I didn't understand. something I was learning at school, there was no one there to talk to. So that's where I felt not being loved. I'm sure I was loved, but I didn't feel the nourishment.
One of the most powerful things you share is how mental illness affected your entire family. You write about moments that were frightening, confusing, and emotionally isolating. What do you want people to understand about what children go through when a parent is battling severe mental illness?
Oh, whoa. Well, I think all of us had a little bit of a different feeling. I had I was scared when I would see dad get angry with my mom. I didn't understand my mom when she was talking in that other world,
Hmm.
so I felt lonely. But I think my siblings, some of them felt my older brother, like, angry,
Hmm.
and my younger brother was so little, he was just trying to eat and survive,
Right.
you know, through our younger years. As we as we grew, I tried to throw myself into sports and just being away from home as much as I could, and my brother never liked to be at home. Mm, so we all kinda handled things a little differently, but she was taken out of our home, just got violent, and
Hmm.
so that's when I really threw myself into work, sports, boyfriends, anything that didn't have to do with home.
Right. Right. And a lot of children go through that to date, and like you said, there's no one to cry to. There's no shoulder to lean on. You don't know who to trust when people are adults and you're a child. And sometimes you don't even know that it's a dysfunctional situation. Like you think
Yeah.
this is the way everybody's house is until you start looking saying, wow, their mom is nicer, or their dad is nicer, or they eat dinner together. Just small things. Something that touched me deeply was the way childhood trauma followed you into an adulthood, into your marriage, your relationships, and your self worth. And I can identify that because people feel like when you go through things as a child, that you should grow up and you should get over it and you should move on. But I am a witness that things I went through as a child does affect me today at my age, in my relationships, in my marriage, in how I feel about myself, in how I deal with certain things. It's all, you know, from things I learned hiding trauma. At what point did you realize I'm not just surviving my past, it's still living inside me?
I think because I always figured I had to handle it, I had control of my life, and I moved forward. All of us did, and we kinda just shoved all of that down inside of us, and as I was going through life, I had a lot of rejection that I didn't know I had
Mhm.
because I was self-rejecting, but I didn't know that. So, as I was going through life and feeling when people would say no to me or not stand by me, not feel like what I had was worthy to say, I started feeling that rejection really bad as a little girl, and it jumps out. That weakness jumps out. And when it started doing that in my marriage and my siblings, with my siblings, when it really hit in my marriage, because my husband was always very supportive. When he wasn't, I just started feeling that, oh, worthy in this marriage and not
Yeah.
to be his partner. And when the final blow came and he made a decision without asking me, I thought, you're right. I'm not an equal in my partner. I'm not good enough. And my dad had died. I I didn't know how to mourn him. He was my rock before I knew Jesus,
Right.
spiraling down.
Mhm.
And I just kept spiraling. And my marriage was over. and I hit the darkest hole lane because I didn't mourn my dad. I didn't have anyone to go to mourn my dad. I'd always
Right,
been myself, and I was breaking, and I didn't want people to know I was broken. And I
right,
realized something was going, and my kids were getting ready to go to college. So now I'm like, well, I'm not one, not a wife. What am I?
right, right. What is my purpose, God?
Exactly. Exactly. And I had to hit rock bottom and reach out to them before I found my purpose.
You take us into one of the darkest moments of your adult life when you felt completely alone, emotionally empty, and you begged God to take you home. How did you get to that moment, and what did you hear from God in the silence?
Well, I got to that moment when I felt I wasn't I wasn't being heard by my husband, but it wasn't just, a week time or a year time. It had been going on for a couple of years. Um, my kids were growing and going on their own, and I just felt, "What is going on here?" And my marriage fell apart, and it took me 5 years to try to get a hold of that. I went through a class called Divorce Therapy and tried to forgive myself for that. I felt my children they were hurt. I felt they were supporting my husband, and I felt lonely because I put that on myself, that I wasn't good enough, and their dad was this wonderful, intelligent man. So I was putting that on myself.
Right.
And so after our divorce, I got involved in a relationship that wasn't really close to Jesus at the time, even though I was working on it. That really fell apart. And again, I felt rejection all over again. I felt rejection when my mom got sick and left. I felt rejection when my dad died. I felt rejection when my husband left. I felt rejection with this guy. And I just said, I'm done. I want to tap out. Couldn't do it anymore. And as I would sit on my floor and cry and beg, but I also drank a lot of wine before that. I would work out, drink wine, and then cry. So I did play softball with the pastor, and I was to a service on a Sunday night, and I went to talk to him, and he said, "Pam, while you're sitting there wanting God to take you home, instead, just be still for a while and then reach out and say, 'Jesus, help me,' because he's right there." And I did. And little by little did I start getting better and start standing up and quit begging, "Take me home."
Yes. I've been at that moment. So I know that moment of worthlessness
Me too.
and hopelessness and just feeling like, death would be an easier answer. And it's a lot of people that face that feel like, I have nothing left. I don't know what to do. I just rather not deal with life as the way it is. But thank God that he doesn't listen to us when we ask him these things, right?
Well, I say in my book and I say in when I talk, I thank God for unanswered prayers. I say it right
I
in the
think
back
so.
of my book. Just like that song Garth Brooks sings, "Thank God for unanswered prayers."
Right, because if he would have answered those prayers, we wouldn't be having this conversation,
You know,
right?
I wouldn't have got
So
to
it
see my
came a
children grow.
right, it came a turning point. Something shifted. You describe a moment where the darkness doesn't win, where God steps into the pain, where healing begins. What was the first sign that Jesus was pulling you out of that emotional pit?
I think when I, because I started really listening to verses and songs. So I think when I would get down, I would not stay down that far. I would not stay down that long. It used to take me weeks to come back up. And when I would
Mhm.
have a cry moment and a pity party for myself, I just noticed that I come back sooner and sooner but I did have a time that I can look back on. I didn't know it at the time, but I went whitewater rafting
Mhm.
and I was sucked out in the hole underneath the raft,
Wow.
and it was a class 4 rapid. My daughter was the guide, and I have pictures of her looking for me, but their job was to get the boat off me, and my job was to walk the bottom of the boat and not panic. And they immediately just said, "You got me, God, right?" And it was pitch black because I had my eyes closed under the water, under the boat, but it wasn't pitch black. I felt this most warm, illuminating a light around me,
Wow.
and I was so calm and so and the next thing you know, I popped up. So, it was a whirl, and I have some pictures, all you can see is the top of my helmet in that rapid, and my daughter was screaming for someone to grab me. So, I can look back on that and go, "I was made for more. God has something for me, and I've
Yes.
gotta keep going and trusting Him." Because in
Yeah.
that moment he has something more. It could have been over.
Right. Because a lot of people have lost their lives in lesser situations. And a lot of times we don't recognize when God has saved our life or when He's given us another opportunity for a reason. We have to learn to see and seek Him and recognize that reason. Like, why didn't you let me die? It's people that could swim that died, or people that wasn't in a white water rapid that died just from drowning. So God definitely has a purpose for you. One of the most beautiful chapters in this book is the way you learn to forgive your mother, your past, and yourself. What did forgiveness do for you? And what would you tell someone who is still carrying anger from their childhood?
My gosh, that was huge. And, I never was angry at my mom or dad other than my dad leaving me, but I think the forgiveness I did a retreat once, and I had to ask someone my strengths and weakness, and one of the weaknesses was someone said, "You never forgive yourself. You never give yourself you keep hanging on to the things that you did wrong and that you caused it." And that was huge.
Yeah.
And when my son said to me for a weakness, "You know, why don't you like yourself, mom?" So I had to take those and really look into myself. And I had to learn forgiveness, but first I had to learn to forgive myself
Hmm.
and forgive others. And as I wrote my book, I could see that the harshness and things that I struggled with my stepmom, she had wounds that she still
Right.
carried. And I didn't know this. And I thought I need to forgive her. And all the people that have hurt me, I need to forgive because I'm sure I've hurt people. And I picked up this saying once, and it said, "Someone I loved gave me a box full of darkness. And after some time, I realized that too was a gift."
Right.
It helped me grow. It helped me seek out Jesus.
Right.
And I had to learn to give myself grace and take those voices, those negative voices of strongholds, Satan, and give 'em to Jesus and say, "No
Yeah.
more, no more." Those kept me down. I was a gold medal winner for those.
I feel your heart in every page. It is so personal, so vulnerable. What made you finally say the world needs to hear this story?
Well, I didn't say it, God did. So
Okay.
so in my healing, God, this year, decided that I went back to school to start a whole new life because I couldn't believe that old Pam that didn't love herself or like herself behind. So I started a whole career, went to school, but really close friend of mine got me a scholarship in the hospital in the town I grew up in. And that condition was I go back there and work off that scholarship. So I ended back in my hometown where the darkness started. So I was going to a retreat one night, our ladies, and these ladies were sharing their stories.
Mhm.
Just kept getting this strong feeling in my soul and heart. Pam, this is it. This is what you do. You take your story, you make a book, you speak on it, you share it, you go share it to those who are still hurting, still in the
Yeah.
dark, still feeling like they're not worthy. I wish somebody came along, my son, child, and did that. Um, and I know my friend tried because she took me to Sunday school, but I just, I went the other way. I thought I'm going to be the best track person and boyfriends. And so I did have that along, but God did put people. He put great families in my life. My husband's family are beautiful people. My boyfriend's families were beautiful people to me. So that's kind of what prompted me to feel that I should do my story, but it took another 7 years before I even started it. And then another 9 years before I actually finished it.
Amazing. Um, so Pamela, there are people watching right now who grew up like you did, people who feel invisible, people who still believe they're unworthy of love, people who cry in silence and smile in public. Speak to them directly. What is the message God put in your spirit for the ones still in the dark?
Okay, well, there's a few things, but the first, we started going and listening to the messages at church, which seemed like every message was meant for me. But a friend of mine gave me the book Battlefield of the Mind by Joyce Meyer. And that enlightened me that those voices in my head were not me, they were not God. Those are not God's words. And when I started listening to worship songs, like Lauren Daigle, who say, I am worthy, I am seen, I believe what you say about me. So I learned a few verses when I was really just still surviving. And one was, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, Philippians 4:13. And then I learned 2 Timothy 1:7 that he did not give me a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and self-control. And I just started grasping these verses. And when I learned one night when I was crying again in the hospital, because the doctor hadn't been very nice, and he said, "Yeah, he does not define you. I define you. I'm the only person that defines you. And
Right.
maybe, just maybe, he's hurting, and hurting people hurt other people. How about we
Yeah.
pray?" So when I learned to pray for people who have hurt me, my
Yes.
God, what happens is amazing. And
Yes.
within 2 months, that guy and I were friends. It was amazing. I was
God,
blown away. And hurting
God,
people do hurt.
yeah, hurt people, and we still have to love those that hurt us, that despitefully use us, because that's what God wants us to do. Because we hurt God, we despitefully use God. We do a lot of things ourselves to be accountable for, and a lot of times when people do things to us, we're just ready to not forgive, not listen, not take down because they did this to us. But we also have to consider what we do to God and what we don't do for God in our daily lifestyles. So we're just as accountable, as the people that hurt us, and we seek forgiveness, we seek absolution, and other people deserve that forgiveness and absolution, not even for them, but more for us. Forgiveness is more about us than it is about the
Exactly.
other person.
Exactly. That's a heavy burden to carry, still holding that on. When I thought I had forgiven my stepmom, but actually, I just one day sat there and go, "Have I actually said to you, Lord, I forgive her for the hurts?" Because she had hurts from her childhood too, and I learned that later in life, and what happened after that was not able to be put in a chapter in the book, but it's in the conclusion, and
Mhm.
it's one of the most powerful things ever, and that that's why God took 9 years for me to write my book, because when I did that, 2 2 weeks later, we were able to keep my dad's remains after 4 years
Wow.
to go lay him to rest.
Wow, wow, wow. God is always at work, and we might not know what he's working on, but if we trust him and believe and obey, you will end up where you belong in the time that you belong there. So maybe it took a while because you still had to go through the process of the outcome of the book. Right now, I'm working on a movie called Broken System, but I can't finish the movie because I'm actually in it. So I have to know what the outcome is, and I have to go through it to even get to the outcome, to even write about it. So I definitely I gotta see what happens next first before I can write what's happening,
Yeah,
what the outcome is. So I definitely can understand the process that God puts us through. It's like peeling back an onion, one layer at a time, and it might take you a while to get to the root of that onion. And peeling back that onion brings tears, it brings pain, it brings sore fingers and hurt eyes, but when you get to the root of that thing, it's
yes.
the best part, right?
Oh, it is so freeing, and it is so fruitful, and really try to work through all those. Boy, when you do, I mean, I just won an award for transformative stories.
Congratulations.
Thank you, but the lady a lot of my reviews, a friend of mine that read it goes, "Knowing you now," which knew me first, "since you read my book," she goes, "never would I have put those 2 people together."
Right.
That little girl and the person that was going through that and who you are now is amazingly.
It is amazing, and it's inspiring, and that's when you know that God changes you because people can't even see the scars. They can't see the wounds, and you look healed even, even though you had to suffer some brokenness, God always finds a way to put us back together if we let him, if we allow him. So, family, what you witnessed today was more than an interview. It was deliverance, it was testimony, it was proof that your beginning does not determine your ending. And God will hold you, even when you don't have enough strength to hold yourself. Pamela Waggoner's book, He Never Let Go, is for every survivor, every overcomer, every wounded child walking around in an adult body. Get the book, share the book, live the healing. And Pamela, thank you for your courage. Thank you for your transparency. And thank you for reminding the world that God never lets go. Where can people follow you and get the book?
Well, my website, PamelaWaggonerGood.com, they can go on there and they can email me, or we can talk, or they can order the book. But Amazon, Barnes and Noble, I am on, they can't get the book on Facebook, but I am on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. The interesting part is the people I published with, any bookstore can order because they're worldwide. Yeah.
Mhm. Amazing. Worldwide. You heard it here first. Miss Pamela Waggoner, and He Never Let Go. Make sure you go get that book. Make sure you have a constant reminder that no matter what, as long as you hold on to God, He won't let go of you. And anything is possible. Healing is possible. Deliverance is possible. And great things can occur when you let God do the work. Thank you so much, Miss Pamela, for joining us. It's been such a pleasure. And I look forward to seeing and hearing more from you.
Ah, thank you for having me on. It was a pleasure meeting you and sharing our thoughts together.
Yes, I loved it. It was very therapeutic. I feel like I had like a little kind of, Bible study session.
Yes, and I appreciate that.
Thank you so much. And you have a wonderful journey. You will be continuously and positively in my prayers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching Worldwide Entertainment TV. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and check out more videos right here on the channel. We've got a lot more coming your way.